Hello everyone, my name is Krissa and today I'm going to be doing my end of the year wrap up. According to Goodreads, I read 102 books this year, but I would like to say that I felt that this year was kind of a forgettable year. I don't think I read that many good books, but at the same time, I don't think I read that many bad books. I think the vast majority of them were just kind of forgettable. And unless I mention it, like none of the books are gonna be in a particular order. Like I didn't sit down and say, okay, these are my top 10 and this is the exact order of the top 10. But like one of them is my favorite book of all time. So I will mention it whenever I get to that one. So the first book I'm going to be talking about is actually A Bond Undone by Jin Young, and he is one of my favorite authors. Like overall, I really love his work, and I just think it's classic. So I actually read two of his books this year. I read A Bond Undone, which is the second book in the Legends of the Condor Heroes series, and I read the third book, which is also on this list, and it's A Snake Lies Waiting. So just to give you a bit of background information, the first book was A Hero Born, and I read that last year and it was amazing, like 5-star read. I really loved it. Okay, and so I just continued on with the series this year. And so the second one was another 5-star read. I'm not going to give too much spoilers, and really it's kind of hard to explain just because there's always so much going on. There's like 30 plus characters, like and then the book takes you on a journey that doesn't just include the main character. Like it just jumps back and forth sometimes. So like it's kind of hard. It's not hard to keep track of it when you're reading it, but it's hard to explain everything that goes on just because so much goes on, you know? So I really enjoyed the second book, which is A Bond Undone. And then the third book, I would say that like the last, because I had it on audiobook, so I would say like the last hour and a half to 2 hours, like I kind of tuned out, and I think that was more on me than the actual book itself. So I did give the third book, A Snake Lies Waiting, 4.5 stars instead of 5 like I had done the previous two books, but I still really enjoyed it and I still want to continue on with the series. I've just been waiting to get it from the library, so that was like that. But those two were definitely some of my favorite reads for this year. The next book I'm going to be talking about is I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. It's a memoir. Like you should know about the book by now, you probably do, but whenever I was younger, I grew up on iCarly. So like I grew up on iCarly before like Sam and Cat came out. Like that's kind of when I kind of got a little bit too old for like Nickelodeon and stuff like that. So I enjoyed iCarly. I always liked Sam as a character. She was always like really badass, and she was like kind of the person I wanted to be because she just did not care. Okay, but then now like reading her like memoir and just seeing the experiences she was going through like in her real life, like while she was filming the iCarly show and like before, and just like just her whole life in general, and like her struggles with like eating disorders and just like depression, just like her relationship with her mother, like it's just a roller coaster, really. So I really enjoyed reading the book, and I really enjoyed, I would say, getting a deeper understanding of her as a person, just because I feel like sometimes celebrities are seen as just that, just celebrities, and it's hard to kind of get on that personal level with them. And while not every celebrity is gonna like come up with like a really good like memoir, I feel like hers was really good. Like not just the subject matter, but the writing itself was very like easy to read, and it didn't suck. It was very good, and it didn't come off as like condescending or anything. I think it was just a very good memoir, and I enjoyed it a lot, and it made me have like a newfound like kind of like respect for her, and just like just being able to like learn of everything she had been through, and just see how much she was able to hide that on camera, you know. And I think that's just crazy, you know. But it's also like admirable at the same time, to be like so strong in the face of like adversity. I don't like to give ratings to like memoirs or like autobiographies, just because like I don't believe you could put like a star rating on someone's like someone's individual like experience. Like, but at the same time, I would say this one is like a 5-star read, because I did read it all in like one day. Like, it was a very like quick read for me, just because it was so interesting. So it's like 5 stars if you were to give it a rating. So it was definitely one of my favorite books that I read the whole entire year. So the next book I'm going to be talking about is The Poppy War. So I really enjoyed The Poppy War. The Poppy War was another book that I read within, it was within 2 days, but it was still like, I want to say like a 24-hour span. But I did like read it, like I started reading it like halfway through the day, and then I went to sleep, and I woke up the next day and finished it. Like, it was amazing. It was really good. And I had wanted to continue it, but then whenever it got time for me to read the second book, I was trying to check it out from the library on the app I had, but it was like I needed to place a hold. So I just kind of got distracted with other books while I was like waiting for that. So then whenever it came time for me to check it out, I just didn't actually read it. So that's going to be on my TBR for 2024, is the rest of the Poppy War series, the rest of the series. So I'm like excited to read that, because I really like Chinese history and Chinese culture, and I kind of like, there was like certain elements of the book and the world building that I could tell were directly influenced by like China's like history and their geography. I just thought it was really cool, because I could see some of the aspects that I had just learned about in my China and Revolution class, that like I had finished around the same time that I started the Poppy War. So a lot of that information was really fresh whenever I went into the book. So I feel like it was so much more prominent, the similarities between the book and certain parts of China's history, and I liked it. I know like there are a few like critics about that, but honestly I don't think that the author did anything wrong with it. I think that like she did like it honor, she did it justice. So I enjoyed it. I haven't read the second and the third book, so I don't know if maybe in the next book she portrays it in like a problematic light, because I didn't think that the first book was like problematic. And it kind of opens up like the discussion for what's too far about when it comes to being influenced by real events and real people, and taking some of those elements and putting them in your own like fiction book. Like, obviously it's fiction, but fiction does start somewhere. It mostly starts with the truth. So I didn't think like her portrayal of like anyone was like problematic, because at the same time she still has like what do they call it, literary license or artistic license, to where like even though she may be influenced, she can still use those certain elements the way she wants to. And I don't think it was done in a terrible way. But I mean, I'm always open to comments and just any opinions on how you guys saw that. And then but for sure my TBR for 2024 is going to include the second and the third book. And I think I might just reread the first one, just because it kind of has been a while since I read it. So I'll probably just reread the whole series, but it was really good. So I wouldn't mind. So the next book I'm going to talk about is Juniper and Thorn by Ava Reed. So I had read this book during a 24-hour readathon that I had filmed and never posted. So I'm still thinking about posting that later, just because I still want to post it. So I really enjoyed Juniper and Thorn, and I thought it was interesting to see like a retelling of a fairy tale that I had not heard before, because like I'm used to the same old like Cinderella, Snow White, Beauty and the Beast, like those same like retellings over and over, that they're boring at this point, you know, and I don't like to read them at this point, you know. But this one was like kind of like something very new and something that I thought was unique, just because I had no prior knowledge of it, and I had not like read or seen like anything that had to do with like the fairy tale that she mentioned, that she like kind of draws from in the story. And I can't remember exactly what it was called, but I do know that it was like an Eastern Europe, like it had like a Eastern Europe origin. So that was also really like fascinating to me, because like I've never been big on Eastern Europe history or geography or culture, like mythology, none of that. So it was like very interesting to kind of see a glimpse of that. And then also like she mentions like in the book the main character cooks food for her father, and so it's kind of interesting to see some of the like the meals that she made and how that like reflected her Eastern European like the location. So I thought that was really cool. So I got to see like new dishes, and that's what I really like about books, is how they do introduce you to new worlds, and I mean new ways of seeing things too, you know. So through the book I kind of got interested in a bit of Eastern European like mythology, and I mean I'm more open and receptive to it than I would have been had I not read this book. Because of how much I enjoyed this book, I'm looking forward to reading more of Ava Reed's work in the future. I know she just came out with a new one called A Study in Drowning, so I really want to read that one. I already heard like a few reviews about it, and everybody seems to like it, so I kind of want to check it out. I will say that it does have mature themes and a few trigger warnings, so if you are more of like a sensitive reader, I wouldn't recommend it. But it's not that I wouldn't recommend it, it's just that I would recommend you to look into those trigger warnings and look into what kind of mature content it has, and see if that is something that you're gonna be okay with reading. And then next was If You Can See the Sun by Anne Leong, and this was, I want to say, the last book I read before the semester started. So I was like really savoring this one, just because I knew that I was gonna be very, very busy and I wasn't gonna be able to read as much. So I was like really savoring this read, and I really kind of enjoyed being able to like connect with the main character, just because of like I mean, obviously, like I've never turned like invisible, like spoiler alert, I've never turned invisible, but at the same time, like I have kind of based my value on my academic success. So that is why like I could kind of relate to the main character. But like at the same time, like she was very driven and very like capable, and I could only like hope to have like an ounce of that productivity. But at the same time, like kind of like also opens up the discussion of like when's too much, because she was just running herself into the ground. So obviously it's not healthy to be that like productive, but at the same time it's like, wow, I wish like, I mean like I just wish I could be more productive. Like that's it, period. But yeah, so I really did enjoy If You Can See the Sun. And like I've seen that the author has a few other books out, so I am like looking forward to reading some of those, just because I really did enjoy If You Could See the Sun. So I would kind of want to check out and see like what else the author has to offer, you know, because I think it's kind of like a safe bet to like just read all of the author's work, especially if you really enjoyed one book, because I hate like taking a chance on a book and then hating it. Like that's like the worst like feeling. But that's why I like to stick to certain authors that I have read before, just because you kind of already know that you're gonna like the book, or it's gonna be more suited to your taste, just because you've liked something that they've written before. So that is why it is always kind of like a safe option to stick with the same authors, although it is nice to like have a little bit of like variety in your life. But yes, but I really did enjoy that book, and I gave it like, I want to say like 5 stars. Like all of the books mentioned on this video were like 4 or 5 stars. You know, it's just like the best books I had read the whole entire year. Okay, and then actually the next one is going to be Of Mice and Men. So like everyone's heard of Mice and Men, and most people, at least like those in like the United States, have been assigned to read this book in school. But I was homeschooled for like a long period of time, so I kind of did miss out on some of the assigned readings. So I never read Of Mice and Men in school. I never did. So like this year was my first time reading it, and like I had like always kind of like had an idea of what the story was about, but like I had never actually experienced it, you know. So I finally got to like read it, and like that's one of the things is like whenever you do read a classic, sometimes you have the thought of like, okay dude, like so why is this a classic, like what's so good about this book? And then there's other times that you read it and you can clearly tell why, you know. And it's like interesting because like the author John Steinbeck, like I read another one of his books, which is The Pearl, but like even though it has a lot of like, I would say like the same themes, with just poverty and like fighting to make a living, like those themes are like very similar. And I think that's kind of a theme that like encompasses all of his work, just because of like the time period that he was alive in, and the time period that he was doing all of his writing in kind of influenced him and his work. And that's like understandable. But at the same time, there's something about Of Mice and Men that makes it a classic. When it comes to The Pearl, like even though it was like a really good book and it had like a lot of good like deep themes that you could really sit and dwell on, it just doesn't have, I want to say, kind of that X factor or something similar to that. Because I mean, it has all the makings of a good book, all the makings of a classic, and it is a classic in its own right, it is. But at the same time, it's not on required reading lists like in schools, and there's like kind of a reason for that. Like if you just read the two, like everyone's gonna be in their own boat, they're gonna have their own like opinion about which one's better, which one is more like which one, I don't know, contributes more to the world, I guess you can say, you could argue that. But at the same time, like for me personally, after reading Of Mice and Men and then reading The Pearl, I realized why Of Mice and Men is a classic, and why like it's a required reading, you know. I just felt it was very insightful. It did deal with not only like a lot of like difficult themes, but like the way the characters are written and the interactions with the characters, and I don't know, just like the whole like setting and the way that it does go in depth about like each character, even the minor ones, and you start to see a bit of their motives and their personalities, to where even though they're not the main characters, you get an inkling of why they make the choices they make and why they act the way they act. And I thought that was like just very interesting, because I do like character driven books, just because I'm very much of like I like to like psychoanalyze people. I really do. So that's like part of the reason why I enjoyed Of Mice and Men so much, because I enjoyed like psychoanalyzing the characters, their relationship, and kind of that bond of obligation, you know. I really enjoyed that. So that's why Of Mice and Men was one of the best books I read I want to say this semester, but no, this year. So Zachary Ying and the Dragon Emperor is actually a middle grade book, but that did not stop me from reading it, because like I don't know, I'm not scared to admit I don't mind reading books that I'm not the target audience or like the target age demographic for. Like I've enjoyed a lot of middle grade books, and I think that like as long as the author like doesn't talk down or to try to dumb down certain elements of it just because if it is like a younger viewership, I think the books can be very good and entertaining for like adults of all ages. And so that was the case with Zachary Ying and the Dragon Emperor. I really enjoyed it, and I also really enjoyed like, because I love Chinese history, Chinese culture. Like I'm learning Mandarin right now. Like I really like all things China, to be honest, you know. So then like what I liked most about the book was the fact that it brought in so many elements of Chinese history and like Chinese legend. Like obviously like everyone's gonna compare it to like Percy Jackson, because not only is it like number one a middle grade book like about mythology, and if you have a middle grade book about mythology, like you're already like gonna get like Percy Jackson like comparisons. And also like there was the main character who's descended from like a powerful like not a mythological creature, because he wasn't like a real person, but like a main character descended from something like a person that is legendary. Zachary Ying is descended from the first emperor of China, Qin Shi Huang, and I really liked the way that the author tried to address some of the common like misconceptions, I guess, or about him and about Chinese history. And so I really did like that. I like bringing different cultures to light and drawing interest in them. So I feel like this book will be really great for like obviously the middle grade kids that it's like targeted towards, but to bring them and introduce them to a new culture, like Chinese culture at that, because like obviously like Korean culture, like Japanese culture, Eastern Asian cultures, like I will say that I believe that China is kind of the most like neglected, like maybe not historically, but as of right now, just due to the overall popularity of like Korea that comes from like K-pop and like K-dramas. And then with Japan, you have like anime and like manga, and then even like now there's like the rise of J-pop. So it's just like I feel like China's kind of like being neglected, just also because there's like the issue of like soft power versus hard power, and like China's not really going in the soft power direction, you know. So that is why I feel like it is like a little bit harder to garner interest in Chinese history and culture. But that's why I think this book is so great, because it does that. Personally, like I gave it like 4.5, 4.8, because I'm just nitpicking at that point. But like there were like a few like political aspects of it that made me not give it like a full like 5 stars. But at the same time, whenever the second book comes out, because I know there's going to be a second book, because the ending, like there's going to be a second book, you know. But when the second book comes out, I'm going to read it for sure. So like regardless of like the little things like that I did not particularly enjoy about the first one, I'm going to read the second one, just because at this point I'm intrigued with the story. I like the story and I like the characters, and I think it was like a very unique. Second to last book is going to be The Ghost Bride by Youngsu Chu, and I'm not sure if I said that right, I'm sorry, but I read this one very early in the year, but I really enjoyed it because it was set in, I want to say, Malaysia, but like it still had like a lot of Chinese elements in it, and just kind of themes that are shared. And so I really liked the idea of ghost marriage. Like, not that I want to like participate in one, but I was fascinated by the idea of ghost marriages and like the burning of money to like the spirits. Like, it's interesting to learn of cultural like practices that are different than my own, you know. So like obviously, like whenever it comes to like burning money or like the Hungry Ghost Festival, like those things are like very different from my own culture and the way that my culture views death and the afterlife. So it was just interesting to really see a whole book that was dedicated to like the afterlife and to like spirits and to kind of that whole theme, you know. And so I really did enjoy it, and I thought it was like a great learning experience. Even though like, yeah, it is a work of fiction, it's still highlighting certain aspects of culture, and so you get to learn through books in that way, you know. So I really enjoyed it, and I want to say I gave it like four stars maybe. There were certain parts where I felt like it dragged on, but I think it's because the main character did a lot of traveling. I'm not going to spoil it and say to or from where, whatever, but she did a lot of traveling, and that is one thing I do not like in books. Like, I'm like, a lot of people like books that focus on like road trips. Like, I am not a journey girl. Like, I do not like reading books that have like long journeys or that have road trips in them. Like, I know there's a lot of books that focus, or like the main plot is the journey, or like the, what do you call them, like car trips or road trips. And the road trip is supposed to be this whole big thing where like the person comes to like a realization about some difficult decision, or they discover their identity, or it's like a really good like coming of age story. And like, so yeah, like road trip stories and journey stories could be really cool, but me personally, I do not like them. So that is like the only reason why I did give this book like 4 stars instead of 5, was just because of all the journeying, like the traveling, the going back and forth. Like, I'm not into that. I'm not into traveling. Like, so it's just kind of like to me, it just made it drag on, because I hate like reading like it's just like, okay, no, you're just talking about literally walking, like, you know, or just going to the like from point A to point B. Like, I don't care, like, not in a bad way, but obviously like it's part of the story, but it's just like, I'm just not a big fan of it. So that's why I give it 4 stars instead of 5, but it was still like in my top 10 favorite books that I read this year. And then so the final book that I'm going to be talking about for like my favorite books of the year is going to be Family by Ba Chen. So Family is actually my all-time like favorite book. Like, I really love this book. I've already read it like I want to say like 2 times, even though, yeah, 2 times it's your favorite book and you only read it 2 times. Okay, so what? Like, literally, like, I love this book, okay? And there's sometimes I pick it up and just read a few pages. Like, it's like not like the whole thing front to back, but I just like reread like a few pages, and I think it's like easily the most like, I don't know, like, I want to say like kind of poetic. Like, the writing is just beautiful. It's very quotable. Like, it's heart-wrenching. Like, it's just like, I mean, I feel like every other page, like, someone's like facing some kind of like moral dilemma, and it's just like really fascinating, like, to me, honestly. And like, I feel like, I mean, there's a reason why like it's like a classic, like you know, just like how I said with like Of Mice and Men. Sometimes when you read a book, you get it, and you're just like, yeah, like, this is amazing. And that's how I feel every time I read Family. So like that's like my number 1 top book, like my favorite book, you know. So I read it this year, and I would like to read it again next year. I want to read it, like reread it again, like every year. So I just really enjoy it. And like if you haven't heard of it, because I don't think I've been given very good like descriptions of any of these books, but like it kind of follows like these 3 brothers of the Gao family, and each of them have like a very different personality. And it takes place during like the May 4th movement in China, which is like its own like political and like social movement that was like also going on at the same time as the new culture movement. So like this book combines like a lot of like kind of the traits, or kind of like I want to say it like really captures that feeling that like obviously I wasn't there, like I was not there. You know, I was not even born. Like my mother wasn't even born, my grandmother wasn't even born yet, so I was not there. I did not get like a first-hand experience. But this book, it feels like the way that they would feel, or I don't know, it just captures what I want to think is the feeling of that time, and like what like all of the students were experiencing, what they were feeling, like the emotions, like all of that. That's what I feel like this book kind of is, you know. So I really enjoy it. I really recommend it. Like there's so many ways I could go on about this book, but like for the sake of time I'm not going to. But I do really enjoy this book, and I would recommend it like to anyone. But 5-star read. So those were all of my favorite books of the year. And like I said before, it was kind of a like meh like reading year. A lot of the books I read were like forgettable, because even though I did read, I think I read like 102 books, a lot of them were like graphic novels that I kind of took advantage of reading during the time that I was using like Kindle Unlimited. So I read like a lot of graphic novels during that time, and they were just kind of like ugh. So there's like a lot of books that weren't like 1 stars, but like they weren't that good anyways, you know. So next year I really want to be more like intentional about the books that I pick, and like read better ones and read a lot more. I still want to be like a very vivacious reader, but like I just want to read better ones, because I have a lot of complaints about some of the books I read this year.